All right. Looks like we are live. So, as you can probably tell by the title, today we're going to be making neon signs using the Eevee render engine. So I have this one right here that I just made. It's a simple arcade sign, and I'm going to be teaching you how to make this. So what we're going to do, let's go ahead, start a new project, right? Don't need this. And we have our default scene, right? First, we want to make sure we're in Eevee. Check bloom, ambient occlusion, and screen space reflections. These will be important when you're doing the metal texture. Next, what you want to do, as always, delete the default cube. Come up here to add. Go not mesh, not curve, but text. Now you see we have this this text right here, but we don't want it to just say text, right? We want it to say something specific. So if we press tab, it takes us into edit mode, and you see this bar right here. This allows us to type just using your keyboard like any other document software or whatever. So let's just we'll make another arcade sign, why not? And then I'm gonna do it this way. Just like that. Now you can, if you want, don't move. If you want, you can just have it going across like so. But I think since it's an arcade, we should have it going down like this. So that's all we need, right? That we're done with that. So you see right here, this little symbol means that it is a curve object. So if we come down to the letter A right here and see this fill mode button, it says both, right? So this basically means we're going to have these faces filled in, right? And if I extrude, right? If I extrude, you can see it's a solid shape, right? Well, this is a neon sign. It's not supposed to be a block. So we're going to set extrude back to 0. We're going to go fill mode, none. And now you see it's just the lines, right? And that's what we want. We're going to come over here to the bevel, right? And go depth. Just give it something 0.3, a little too big. 0.2 is probably what I would use. And this basically is it for the sign. So now we're going to take this, come over here, new material, change it from principled BSDF to emission, and crank it up to something like 4. Now if we go in textured view, you can see we have ourselves an arcade sign, right? And it's glowing, it's doing the whole bloom thing, but it's white, right? So let's just change it to something pink, right? That seems pretty arcade-like. So now we have a neon sign, right? And that's great and all, but what we really want is like the full thing, it's got to have a back on it. So we're going to take this same thing, right? And we're just going to shift D to duplicate. Right now we have 2. And for the second one, we're going to name this one backing, right? Come down to the text, right? And set our depth to 0. Okay, this one's not going to have any rounding. Now under geometry, you want to set offset until you can see it, right? See the lines. You want to set fill mode to back. Oh, and I forgot, you want to change the texture of this one. So let's go ahead and delete this texture. We're going to make a new one, call this one metal. Base color is fine, you can leave that. Make sure crank metallic all the way up and specular to about 0.8 or so. This will give us a nice metal texture, right? And then if you have this screen space reflections and ambient occlusion, it just makes it look all the nicer in Eevee. So now we have our back, right? But that doesn't look right at all, right? That's because we're missing the extrude, right? So we have our offset, and let's take the extrude up. About 0.08 works. Now you can see from the outside, it just looks like metal blocks, and the bloom and everything reflects very nicely inside of there. So now if we go to Z view, this is our finished arcade sign. But you can see there's a few problems with the letters every now and then. Sometimes you get these weird cuts and stuff. That's fine. If you get a whole face missing, it's really up to random chance. Blender's trying to figure out where and where not there's a face, so it gets a lot of weird clipping issues. If you get any faces that are deleted, you can do what I did on the last one, which is take a plane, right? And this is going to be our backing frame. That's what I'm going to call it. And go to Z so we can see straight down. Tap into edit mode. And just kind of shrink it until it'll nicely fit the letters, right? Don't make it too big. Something like that, right? Drag it to the center so we get even scaling, and just scale it up a little bit. Now that we have that, we want to move it to, actually let's tab back into object mode and scoot that down till we can't see these letters anymore. That'll ensure that the finish on the bottom is all nice and the way it's supposed to be. Now this backing plate, we're going to make it the same texture. I'm going to make that metal texture. And it's got a little bit of reflectivity now. So from here, we're going to take this plate, come into the modifiers tab right here, and I like to add just a little bit of solidify, right? Make it thicker. I'm going to go like 0.4 or something. That's a nice thickness. And that's basically it. Now I went a little bit further in the model that I showed you. And what I did there was you want to make sure that you apply this, right? That's going to become very important when you go into edit mode and try to select this face, right? If you shift D to duplicate the face, moving it on the Z axis, now you see we just have a face. If you had left that solidify modifier unapplied, this would also be a thick plate. We don't want that, because what we're going to do with this actually is hit P and separate by selection. So now this piece right here is no longer part of this backing frame, right? And what we're going to do with this is hit F3, and that'll allow you to search functions. I already have it here from the last project. But if you don't, just type in convert, right? And you'll see this right here, object convert to curve. And you see immediately it gives us our wireframe, right? And that's what we want. So we're going to go into the curve, and just like we did with the letters, right? We're going to go with bevel, depth about 0.2, right? Something like that. Now take this and drag it down till it's just about lying on top of there. You can make it have its own box if you want. That's another look that you could go for. I'm personally just going to let it sit on the back of here. Now you can see we have these lines which, if you're any distance away from it, don't show up, but I personally don't like those. So we're going to F3 to get better view. F3, convert to mesh. That's going to turn it back into a mesh. So now, we can shade smooth that, which looks much nicer. Now for this material, we're going to select our neon one, right, which is material 1. And we're going to hit this 2. This makes it a separate material. So now when we edit this material, it doesn't change this material. And this one, we're going to make a nice blue color, right? Something like that. That looks pretty decent. And that's basically your finished arcade sign, right? Now, personally, in the model that I showed you, I added another plane, right? and I'm going to call this one framing hooks. And this is just what it's going to attach to the building with, right? So we're going to come into edit mode, tap Z so we can see where, oh, scroll over till we can get a nice view and just shrink it on the y-axis, right? Or whatever axis is vertical to your sign. Shrink it a little bit on the X. They don't need to be exactly that long. Now Control R to add an edge loop and just leave it in the middle. Select this face. And actually, okay, yeah, and then hit rotate, and on the if we go to Y, right, you can see this is the axis that'll give us a parallel motion, right? So what we want to do is hit 90, and you see it kind of warped it. We're going to just kind of scoot that back up until it touches the line, right? So we generally get a 90-degree angle, right? And this is going to be our hooks. So we're going to hit A to select everything. On this red axis, we're going to move it 180 so that it's facing backwards. And just kind of, you know, line it up with the back, right? Don't make it clip through, but don't make it on top of the blue outline. So this is going to be our backing clip, right? Come in here, hit solidify, just like with the frame, something like 0.3, and then you can see it's kind of clipping, so just move it down a little bit. Now you come in here, and tab into edit mode so we can just create parts that are the same, go on the y-axis, and just kind of make a couple of those, right? Go. Just gonna scoot that over. Right, and now we have 3 hooks, which we're going to give the metal texture. And these allow us to just attach that to a building, right? So now we're going to look over here, make sure we don't have any curves, which you can see we do. So we're going to take our backing, F3, convert to mesh, and our text, F3, convert to mesh. And now we can just take everything, Control J, and join it. And this is our finished neon sign. And then, if you got your building right here, and you got this is just going to make a single wall. You got your wall. Then, not edit mode. Come in here, 90 degrees. Something like that. And you can line it up with your building. Hang on a second. Do that. Let me see now something doesn't look right with these. No. All right, so I messed up somewhere when I was working with these. I think what I forgot to do was, wait a second. I'm just using Control Z to go back. Yeah, okay, so see what I didn't do here was apply this. So we didn't get that thickness. So now let's, that's all good. We'll join it again. And toss another wall in there. R, 90 degrees, X. Line it up so that the hooks are pretty much parallel. And then, yeah, there is your arcade sign. And you just set it on the wall like that. Go into rendered view. And yeah, you can delete the light if you want. And then you can see that that lighting reflects nicely off of your wall. And of course, if you have an image texture on there, then the roughness and reflectivity of your wall will, add a little bit more detail into how that reflects. That's pretty much it for creating, in my opinion, pretty amazing neon signs. And yeah, thank you for watching. I'm gonna end the stream.